I'm Tracy Kennick, your host today. When we come back, as many of you may know, this month, June, is Black Music Month. We're going to be talking with 4 local DJs who used to host a radio station back in the late 50s, the early 60s, and also into the 70s. And we'll find out what they have to say about what's changed and possibly a new radio station coming, at least for one day, here in Southeast Texas. Don't go away. Many of you may have heard them on the radio, and we'll bring back fond memories today. Kelly Weaver, Big Daddy Cal Weaver on the radio.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And TUDY, is that right, TUDY Duriso?
Yes, Brother TUDY Duriso.
Brother TUDY Duriso. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Tracy, for inviting us.
First of all, let's go back, and if you will, just for a moment, reconstruct what your radio station was like. It started in 1958 here in Beaumont, right?
Well, really, I'm a new kid on the block, and I'm sitting here with my mentor, and I'm his mentee. And what we're trying to do come June the 15th at KLO 1250 radio station, where I presently work, and I'm a gospel DJ and also a talk show host. And on June 19th, from 5 a.m. in the morning, we plan to recreate the old KJET radio station. It was a black radio station back in the 50s, and like I mentioned earlier, we'll start off at 5 o'clock in the morning, starting off with Brother GERALD, and then we'll following Brother GERALD will be Willie Knight and Baby K, as we call him, a 19-year-old wonder. And following him would be Big Daddy Cal Weaver, and finishing off would be LJ. And LJ presently works with KLO 1250. He do the weekend show, the LJ Saturday Affair. So what we're trying to do, we want the younger listeners to know what I would rush home for in the afternoon to listen to, and that was KJET. And like Cal and I talk all the time, along with Lord and Brother Gerald and Willie King, we talk about the guys back in the day being radio personalities. Right now, the guys that you have on here are jukeboxes.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we want to talk a little bit about that. Now, I'm one of those younger people you're talking about, and of course I was around in the 50s and 60s, but I want to know a little bit about what it was like for y'all. Tell us a little bit about what the music was like, what the whole excitement was with you 4 DJs.
Well, first of all, I'll take that question. First of all, I want to dispel the fact that I just didn't win the Masters. For those who think I may have expired, I'm live and in living color.
There you are, right?
Well, I can tell you what my experience with the now defunct KJET 1380. I started in 1960 doing morning drive, working from 6 until 10. And the format was basically rhythm and blues, okay? And it was a sunrise to sunset station, meaning that it signed on at sunrise and shut off at sunset. And the format, like I said, was basically rhythm and blues. We had a top 40 format that we followed. But each personality, and it was a personality radio station, we could kind of branch off and do our own thing. Like in the morning, I like big band jazz. We had a guy that relieved me was William Boy Brown. He still followed the same basic format, but he liked a little jazz music, so he spread it his wings that way. Later on there was Gospel Show, and later on in the afternoon there was Willie K, a 19-year-old wonder who lives in California, so he couldn't be with us. And he was the teeny bop of the radio station. So basically that in a capsule was what it was all about.
Now you were telling me that earlier that there was a story behind how you got Big Daddy Cal Weaver. What is that story?
Well, when I first come to Texas, I came here from Savannah, Georgia. That's where I launched my radio career. And I had just gotten out of the Air Force. I did a military stint in the Air Force. And I was weighing about 255 pounds. Thus the name Big Daddy. And they tagged me with that name, and it stuck. So, strangely enough, Tracy, nobody knows my real name. But they know it now because I think you said it in the opening there. Sure. It was Kelly Weaver. So if anybody called me Kelly Weaver, it's either a bill collector or somebody like that.
Sorry, watching this program.
But I'm known far and wide as Big Daddy Cal Weaver. That was my radio name for the whole while I was in there.
All right. Now, TUDY, I want you to tell us, some of these radio disc jockeys out here now who think they're DJs may be offended by what you say. I don't know. So tell us what you think the differences are today from what they were, and how are you more of a DJ than they are today?
Okay, number one, first of all, the diction, the grammar, and anybody that want to go on a radio station, they just, hey, okay, come on. Well, it wasn't like that in the day. As a matter of fact, Carol, we was, like I said, I sitting on the stage with my mentor. We'd take the time in the afternoon to, hey, look, this is what I want you to do, to teach me to do it the right way. But right now, they don't care. It's all about money. It's all about how much the station can make.
Do you think there was more of a love for the music and for actually what you were doing than maybe there is today?
Well, it was more of a love for your fellow man. Because like Carol and Lloyd and Gerald always say, I do a lot of community work, and it's more than behind the microphone. And jobs today, all they want to do is stay behind the microphone, stay in the studio, and half of them don't walk on the ground, they float. But it's not about that. It's about going in your community, letting the people know that I am an attainable role model.
Okay, you were kind of looking like you wanted to.
I was trying to follow up on what he said about being community involved. We would do our air shifts, and we would get off the air and go out and mingle in the community. And we would know not only on the radio, but they were able to see that voice in person. And it kind of enhanced your personality in the community.
What about the black music stations today? How has the music changed, and is it more representative today of the African American community, or is it less today?
More representative of the African community.
Today?
Yes, today.
And why is that?
Right. Well, because we get a chance as black DJs to play the type of music that we know that the black community want to hear, because we live in that community. Where back in the day, they just drove into that community and worked at various radio stations, and they wanted you to sound a particular way. Back in the old days, and Carol probably could speak more of that than I can. And basically, what I'm saying, they wanted you to sound Caucasian.
Mm-hmm. With the jazz music and such, not necessarily what you would necessarily listen to in your own home.
Yes.
Let's talk about, because this is interesting, it's going to be on Juneteenth, the 19th of June.
That's correct.
What, on that day, do you think of from the time past, back in the 50s and 60s, compared to now?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tracy, it's going to be a blast in the past for me just to be there and try to recreate the old KJET sound, which incidentally was a dynamite radio station here in the Golden Triangle, quiet as it's kept. It was a force to be reckoned with. Like I said, it was a daytime radio station. It was virtually always sold out. So we had massive listeners. But it's going to be a pleasure for me to try just to attempt to recreate the old KJET sound on Kalo for that one day. And we're trying to get the message out and inform as many people as we can, old and young, about this event.
Now, I specifically want to talk about the date, June 19th, because I want to know, for a time I think people were thinking it's a lot less racist now than it was back then. Then we have the whole James Byrd Jr. thing come up, and it all starts again, and people start talking about racism. Do you think we're getting over that hump, or do you think there's still a big division in our community locally here?
Well, the economy causes racism. If you don't have, then you blame it on, well, you just look around and say, well, hey, look, we don't have. And the reason why we don't have, because we're the blacks, Hispanics, or whatever, and that's not true. And we, in this day and age, we're more educated than back in the day. Right. So a lot of things that maybe a racist would normally do out front, then he or she realized that it's not politically correct.
Cal, what do you feel on it?
Well, I think racism is still, believe me, I think it's still as widespread as it always has been.
Do you really?
But hear me out. I think it's taken on a more subtle attitude. It's camouflage.
That's less politically correct to say what you said.
Yeah, it's more insidious now than it was a long time ago. A long time ago, I mean, you could get physically abused. Well, just recently with James Byrd, boy, did he ever get physically abused. But what I'm saying is, it's a little bit more subtle now than it was in the past. That's my viewpoint.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Now,
it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not from the South, and I have to tell you, where I grew up, it seemed like there was less talk of it. And when I first came to this area, first thing that I remember is somebody called and asked me why on one of the commercials that we ran, they didn't see an African-American child in that commercial. And it was the first time I thought, you know, I looked at the commercial, but I hadn't really thought about it. And there were other races, but there wasn't an African-American. And from that time on, there's been so much talk of it. Do you think the more we talk of the divisions, the more it becomes such in our society?
Well, not really, because we need to show our kids positive role models. I have a daughter. From day one, two things I bought her for Christmas, and that was always a bright doll and always a bright doll mannequin, because I wanted her to see something that looked like her, because you identify with something that looked like you.
Right. Good. Okay, well, let's talk about coming up on June 19th, a little lighter now. Tell us what kind of things we're going to be hearing. Are you four going to actually, the other two that we haven't met yet, are you actually going to be on the radio?
Cal, Lloyd, and Gerald, but
what's up with you two?
Well, it was my idea. I'm working my way in the local.
So you're the behind-the-scenes brains, huh?
Yeah.
And it's going to start at 5 a.m.
5 a.m. with Brother GERALD that you'll be talking with a little later on in the show. Brother GERALD doing a gospel show, and myself and Willie K, the 19-year-old wonder, will come on, and hopefully we can recreate what the people heard back in the 60s when KJET was a force to be reckoned with during the golden time.
So are we going to hear jazz music?
You're going to hear jazz, you're going to hear some old stuff that was good then and it's good now, because a lot of the music that was verboten or taboo back then is now being used on, believe it or not, commercials today.
Do you think y'all are going to remember what to do when you get in that
It's just like riding a
radio
bicycle.
station?
Just like riding a bicycle.
How long has it been, Cal, since you've been?
It's been, I divorced myself from radio in 1970, and I went into the petrochemical manufacturing business, and I just retired from a local chemical company here in Beaumont.
Now, there may be a lot of things you don't recognize. You may not even recognize it as a radio station.
That's true. But I've been going over to the radio station to re-familiarize myself with all the gizmos and the knobs and all that kind of, the switches and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, it's just like riding a bike.
All right. TUDY, what were you?
Well, Trish, and see, that was one of the main reasons I wanted to put this together, because Cal, Lloyd, Willie K, and Brother GERALD, they were personalities. And when I say personality, in my mind, they could come back and work in our shift. But the guys now, they're, like I mentioned earlier, cue cards. Okay, but
what's next on my list of things to say, not worth my personality?
Yeah, most of what they did, was original, and like I said, that was one of the main catalysts behind, bringing Cal back, Willie back, the old jocks, to let the kids know that, hey, look, these guys were real personalities. And by the way, I'd also like to thank the Weed and Seed organization for sponsoring the entire event here in, at the Charlton Pilot Weed and Seed organization, and also thank our general manager, Miss Pat Buckhalter, for giving us the opportunity to put this 15-hour event on.
Tracy, can I say one thing?
Sure.
What this area needs right now, radio-wise, is a good old-fashioned radio station that plays rhythm and blues with personality like KJET used to have.
And we're going to have that June 19th.
you better believe it.
Y'all might be such a hit that we'll want to keep that on. How they won't let you go.
Who knows? You never can tell.
All right, well, thank you both for joining me. We want to talk with a couple of other folks coming up. We'll be talking with GERALD LOEB, Brother GERALD LOEB, that is, and L.J. Lloyd Jones right after this, so don't go away. Thank you. DJs that we didn't talk with earlier, GERALD LOEB, or Brother GERALD LOEB, it was on the radio that way, and L.J. Lloyd Jones. Thank you both for joining in.
Thank you for inviting me.
Listen to your radio voice.
Well,
you still have it.
Well,
you still got it.
Well, I'm still in it. I'm still in it. I work
You're still under it. Okay, well, then there we go. Both of you two are. Now, the other two have retired.
No, just one.
No, just the one. Cal Weaver. He's retired.
Right,
okay,
Cal.
so Cal's the one that said he got out of the radio business back in 1970. So what do y'all do now? Which radio station do you work with?
Oh.
KLO 1250. I work on the weekends on Saturday from noon until 6. And
I work from 12 noon until 6
on
Sunday.
Now we need to mention, because we didn't do this in the first section, that this coming up June 19th, we've been plugging it the whole time, saying listen, because we're going to relive this KJET radio station on June 19th all day long. But it's on KLO 1250, and so that's AM. So that's where you want to tune your dials on June 19th. Okay, now, since you both are still in the business, then you can tell us perfectly how the whole business has changed, what you've seen evolve, and how it has kind of changed for you. Why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, the music, of course, has changed. The equipment has changed.
Was that hard to get used to?
Not really. Not really. I prefer the old turntables.
Really? Why is that?
I guess just out of habit. But with the CD players, it's much easier. You know, rather than cue a record, you just hit a button and
Right.
cue. So that has changed. I miss radio. I mean, I work one day. I wish I could work 5 days a week like I used to. However, I needed to make some money and get some benefits. Like, so I had to make a decision.
And radio's not always the best.
But actually, I got really the best of both worlds. I mean, I've got a real good job, and also I work on weekends.
You get to do what you love.
Right. I mean, it's not like when they say, find you a job that you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. That's right.
I've heard
That's
that.
right.
Okay, tell us a few things.
And-
Do you agree with that? That it,
Yes, I
certain
agree
things have changed, but do you
100%.
like the way it used to be, the turntables and stuff? Do you think it's a little more
love the
convenient?
turntables. But CDs is okay too.
They don't scratch as much, you know?
No,
Right. Right.
And then you don't have to chew all the time, you know, chewing up records.
Right.
Just put
Now-
the CD in and let it go.
I'm curious because TUDY had mentioned that he doesn't think that those folks on the radio today have much of a personality. Y'all two are still on the radio.
Yeah, see, we
Have you had to change
was
your personality?
together. Yeah, we was together too. Over at KJET.
No, we haven't changed our personality.
Oh, no.
No.
So you would say not everybody on the radio is in that stereotype.
Right, but I understand what Trudy is saying. It's pre-programmed. I mean, the jocks will read, basically. I ad-lib when I get ready. You know, I intro a record when I get ready, outro when I get ready. Kind of flexible, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But nowadays, you can listen for, we hear a song in the morning, and then maybe 12 hours later, you hear that same song.
Right.
So it's all computerized now.
Tell us something from your past. I mean, the other two guys are gone now, so if you want to talk about them, they'll probably be
Oh, I'd
okay.
love to. I'd
But
love
tell
to.
us something from the past when you all worked together. What made it so fun, and what created that atmosphere that you wish would come back?
Yeah, we was together. I mean, we worked together. Always had a nice smile, handshake, and sometime we'd do things wrong, but we'd all get together and iron it out and come out 100%.
The brothers.
It was fun, Tracy. When I worked in radio full time, it was fun. I enjoyed what I was doing, and it's fun now. Working, I never had a chance to work with Kelly Weaver. Who no one would know, right? But
You
DJ
both
Cal
like
Weaver. Cal, as TUDY said, is one of my mentors. It was a loss to radio when Cal left radio. It really was. TUDY and I, we've been knowing each other since junior high school, which is not too long ago. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah. Just the other day, huh?
But and now we've had a chance to work together at KLOEB 1250, and Brother Gerald LOEB and I worked together at KJET Radio, and the 19-year-old wonder who's missing, and he's out of town, Willie K. We worked together.
And he'll be back.
Oh, he'll be back for the 19th celebration.
Now, what happened to KJET? How did it dissolve here? It was located on Calder and Selma, right?
No, on Finette Road.
Oh, on
Well,
Selma.
originally it was on Calder, and then moved to Finette.
What happened with the station?
I really don't know. I'd be speculating because I had gone on to higher ground, I guess. I got a job. But it was a daytimer. And believe it or not, a station with the call letters of KALO came to town. And I think the owner kind of got scared. And,
So too much competition.
well, yeah, and there was a daytimer in KLOEB 1250, which is not the KLOEB 1250 we work for. It was if I'm not mistaken, it was originally located behind the mall.
Yeah.
I think that's what, and then they moved to call it. But they were a 24-hour station, and it's hard to compete with a 24-hour station being a daytimer. And they had much more power than we had. But we do pretty good now, and we're in the AM, but we're not a 24-hour. We could be. We're not. We're on until midnight.
And much more competition now than you had then.
I can't remember, what, 20, 21 radio stations in this market?
Yeah, it's
And
such
not
a
a big market.
fragmented audience, I would think now. I mean, you can really
Exactly.
pick out exactly what kind of music you want to listen to.
Exactly. And, you know, we play a variety of music, from R&B, from the Aretha Franklins, the Barry White. We also inject a little Zydeco, which is right across the border, right?
Right, the Cajun flavor.
Exactly. We play that. And a variety, like I said, I love it. And not to be egotistical, but I'm selective when I'm on Saturdays, you know. You just don't grab a CD and put it on. So it adds to, I guess, the success of my show. Not to sound egotistical now, Tracy, okay? But I do have a large listening audience on Saturday, and I appreciate that, I really do. So does the gospel that we play on Kilo 1250.
Well, tell us a little bit, Gerald, how the idea came up about the radio station and bringing it back on June 19th. Was there a significance on that day because it's Juneteenth?
No,
Well, yeah, Tracy, with June 19th, and of course, June being Black Music Month.
Right.
And so well, actually, it was all Brother TUDY Duriso's idea. And he asked me about it and said, well, yeah, I love the idea if you can get Cal and Gerald and Willie, you know, to participate.
And Kayla was pretty responsive to that.
yes.
They were. Also, along with that, Tracy, we're going to sort of recreate the good old days, as we call it, at KJET Radio. That's on the 19th of June, a Saturday. But that Friday night, Willie Knighton, who's absent now, out of town, as I stated before, he had a Solarama dance.
A Solarama.
Solarama it was called, where the teens would come out to the studio, to the radio station, and they had a studio there. It was large enough to have the teens to come out and dance. And I think you had to have a Solarama card, Joe?
Yeah.
See, I'm not that old, okay.
And we had Studio 8. Okay, so they had the dances at Studio 8.
And so you're going to recreate that?
Yes, that Friday night. Friday night would be June the 18th.
Now, is this going to be for the teenagers or for the young at heart?
Actually, we invite everyone. In fact, we encourage everyone to come out, but especially the former Solarama members. At the, I believe it's the Longshoreman Hall on Pennsylvania in Beaumont. Friday night starting at 9 o'clock now. I wish we would have said something, but he said he's going to pass out Sloan limit. We're going to be at 9. At 9:30 it'll be over, okay? But actually it's 9 until.
Well, that's great. Do you still keep in touch with other people that you worked with back then? And are you just the four of you really that are still real tight?
Well, we had a fellow named Roger Wells, King Arthur. He called sometimes, called me, and called Cal Weaver.
Do people still recognize you when you're out? And
Oh,
talk
yeah.
to
Oh,
you?
yes.
Do they talk about how they miss the radio?
Oh, yes. KJET is a topic every time I run into people that I haven't seen in a while. They wish KJET was back. Yeah, we do keep in touch with our colleagues who've left for whatever reason. I had a friend, Sly Fox, who's up in Chicago, or was in Chicago. He would call Bob Collins, who actually hired me at KJET Radio. He called last Father's Day. So we communicate, try to at least. Now, here in the area, of course, Gerald and Cal, TUDY, we have a pretty good relationship.
That's great. Do you think that if this station were here now, it would continue to do well with the jazz kind of feeling?
Oh, yes, sure would.
Well, let's see. On June 19th, we're going to do a story. We want to be there as well. Channel 12 will go along. We're going to get some of this video and you four personalities and whoever else is out there, and kind of help recreate the whole thing for our audience. And we're going to see what some of the feedback is, and maybe we could start another, even if it's one day a week or one day a month, if we could start something like this back here in Southeast Texas. A lot of people, I think, might appreciate that.
I think they would, Tracy. I really do.
Why don't you, before we go, let everybody know again what time it's going to start on June 19th and which radio station?
Okay, it's going to start at 5 a.m. On KJET 1250 with Brother Gerald LOEB until 10 o'clock. From 10 to 2, it's going to be Big Daddy Cal Weaver and Willie K together. And we're going to have sort of a bio from 2 to 3 on KJET Radio. From 3 until 8, yours truly will be on with the Saturday afternoon affair.
Great. Okay, reliving KJET radio station for Black Music Month here in Southeast Texas again, June 19th on AM KLO 1250. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Tracy.
It's a pleasure to meet you
It's a
both.
pleasure to meet you, too.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Have a wonderful Sunday, everybody. We'll see you again next Sunday.